Various groups held an anti-corruption rally today demanding accountability for allegedly anomalous flood control projects that has robbed the country of hundreds of billions of pesos. But that's just the beginning, with more protests expected to be held in the coming days. We'll be speaking with Kiko Aquino-Dee. He is the co-convenor of Tindig Pilipinas. Good afternoon, Kiko.
Hi, Miss Mai. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to all of our viewers and listeners today.
Thank you for your time today. Now, a public outrage is obviously translating to street protests. Now, tell us about the rally this morning.
So we conducted a very peaceful rally this morning po in the EDSA Shrine. No, we started with a mass at 9 a.m. It was presided by Father Bong Sarabia. Also, there were Father Robert Reyes and a couple of other priest presiders po. And then after, we did about an hour and a half to 2 hour program at the foot of the statue of the Blessed Virgin. You're seeing it there. And the call was very straightforward po. All of the different groups, from labor to youth groups to civil society organizations, we all want to get to the bottom of these flood control anomalies. I think the news came out that the independent commission is finally being formed, and that's something that we are looking at we're anticipating cautiously. We hope that taking it out of the political branches, taking it out of the lower house, taking it out of the Senate will allow us to see what's going on beyond the particular individuals that each of these chambers are trying to protect.
Mm-hmm. What can you say about how the pace of all of this is going? We've seen investigations in the Senate, another investigation also at the House of Representatives, but the independent commission is taking. Those composed in the independent commission, we haven't heard about the official announcement yet, and it's taking quite a while. How are you seeing all of this?
Well, I hope the commission gets put together soon, no? And I think the ball is not just in the court of the executive here. As I understand it, President Marcos wants the commission to have subpoena powers, which we don't agree a lot with President Marcos, but on this matter, I think we're on the same page. The commission should have teeth, no? And I think that's an act that actually needs to come from Congress. The executive doesn't have power to create a commission with subpoena powers. So I hope that Malacanang gets its stuff together as quickly as possible so that the ball can be solely in the court of Congress. We've seen them sort of play the role of a public watchdog. No, they're calling people out. They're accusing left and right of whoever and however, right? But we want, if Congress really wants to put its money where its mouth is and go for accountability without fear or favor, then a very concrete step will be to empower this commission with subpoena powers through legislation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, about the turnout this morning, were you satisfied with the turnout in the protest action? And tell us about the youth participation. You talked about youth groups joining this rally earlier. Are you seeing a more active, are you seeing that they're taking a more active role in these street protests? Or take, for example, the Gen Z participation like we've seen in our neighboring countries?
Yeah, so definitely the turnout was, this is probably one of the biggest protests we've called this year in EDSA Shrine. And this is on 2 days' notice. No, we just put out the pub mat, I think, Monday or Tuesday. I forget the exact date. So and it was office hours, 9 o'clock on the work day, and yet a lot of people showed up to hear mass. A lot of people stayed for the program, so we're definitely very satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the youth is concerned, honestly, my view of the youth is they're the ones taking the lead, and I'm following. No, so even in other issues, like when it comes to the West Philippine Sea, it was the youth that put Atin Ito together to do that mission in the West Philippine Sea, and then kinaladkad na lang ako and I followed because it's something I felt was important. Now, one of the first formations to call out the corruption was this Youth Against Corruption, no? So YAK. And I was quite amused by their logo. It's the emoji, it's the throwing up emoji kasi yak yung acronym, no. So definitely they bring a lot of vigor, a lot of creativity into this movement.
That's interesting. And comparing it also to what's happening in Nepal now, they're calling it the Gen Z revolution. So more really awareness from this younger generation now.
Yeah, absolutely. And because I think a lot of what's going on is being communicated through a language they understand. No? So I'm personally not on TikTok, but a lot of the outrage over corruption and the unjust spoils of corruption that other people have been taking advantage of, that's been expressed through social media. And it shouldn't be so surprising that Gen Z, both here and abroad, are the first people to react when this is the platform being used. No? But again, I really feel that, yeah, people here are taking the lead. No? And I think they're doing it in a way that is distinctly Filipino. I'm very proud of all of the protests, I think, that have occurred during the last 2 weeks. That while definitely there's anger, there's I think the level of outrage over corruption has definitely palpably increased over the last couple of days. But the most we've seen as far as protest is yun, may naghahagis ng putik, may mga sumisigaw. But there hasn't been any, I think, any violence. No, parang no one has been harmed. No one has been harmed physically. And I think that's something to be proud of. No, that we can hold our public officials to account in a way that is, again, distinctly Filipino. That echoes the fight that we waged in 1986 for the People Power Revolution, which is why I think very fitting we had our protest at the EDSA Shrine. It's Our Lady of Peace, no? And I think that's something that I think we can tell the whole world that the Filipino way to fight for our rights is one that peaceful, but just as expressive, just as biting, just as incisive as what we see elsewhere.
There are reports, though, Kiko, that the protests could end up in Forbes Park, and this could possibly turn violent. Have you heard anything about this?
So definitely not. That's not something that our group is calling for. And honestly, the first I heard of it was not quite in this interview, but in a previous interview. So no. So definitely, whatever protests Tindig calls for, we're very much committed to the spirit of EDSA, and the spirit of EDSA was that of a peaceful revolution. So peaceful reforms is what we're fighting for right now. And that being said, though, I think it's important for the people in Forbes Park, the middle class, the more privileged class, to understand that these protests aren't coming from nowhere. No, these protests are coming from people who've always been shafted by the inequality, by the corruption that has occurred in government. And so I hope that those who mga kauri ko, for lack of better opinion, since I'm not from Forbes Park, but I'm from there. I have family. I'm there often. I have family there. Hopefully, hopefully you come out too, because I think corruption is while definitely the less fortunate, our poorer fellow Filipinos are the ones who are first to be hit by corruption, because it's the services that they need that are affected. When floods happen, it's poorer Filipinos that have to brave the flooded waters, have to expose themselves to things like leptospirosis. While definitely they're the first ones to be affected, and we should go out of our way to make sure that they're not the only ones to bear the brunt of this, and they're not the only ones to fight for these things.
Right.
I think and corruption affects all of us. No? All of us pay taxes, and so I hope the call goes beyond the working class. No, I hope it reaches the ears of the people in Forbes Park, to make their voices heard as they have in the past.
So more people are calling for accountability, and there's another indignation rally set for this weekend, and then there's what's called the Trillion Peso March on September 21st. Is your group part of these actions?
So Tindig Pilipinas will be part of the September 21st Trillion People. The mobilization that was announced for the People Power Monument is where we will be participating. And yeah, I think it's a very intuitive thing. No? September 21 was the anniversary of the declaration of martial law. And while for me the worst thing that happened during martial law was the human rights abuses. the rampant corruption that happened out there that saddled us with so much debt is right up there with the worst legacies of the Marcos Sr. dictatorship. And so I think it's a very, very fitting call that many people are mobilizing on that day to finally say, let's end this story of corruption in the Philippines. Let's do what we wanted to do in 1986 and really set up a government with the best interests of Filipinos at heart, with the best with virtue being let's have leaders who lead with virtue as opposed to self-interest. As for September 13 po, while Tindig is not participating there, I've personally been in touch with some organizers for September 13. There's one group, Kalayaan Kontra Corruption, which, to the best of my knowledge, is composed of it's another group of youth that is organic, that hasn't really mobilized before, and that's something they've made clear to me, that they're calling out corruption. They're not supporting any particular political bloc. They're not pro Duterte. They're not pro Marcos. They're not pro Pink, right? They're just calling out corruption, and I think that's something that they reached out to me, and I, as someone who believes in political participation in whatever form, that's something I'm supporting. That being said, I'm aware that other groups have made calls for September 13, and not all of them are necessarily committed to that kind of non-partisan stand against corruption. Not all of them are committed to non-violence. So I think my advice is, yeah, definitely we need to be cautious as far as any participation is concerned. September 13 is no different, but I am with this particular group, Kalayaan Kontra Corruption, in their call for peaceful protest.
All right,
on
Kiko.
September 13th.
Yes, Kiko, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time for us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, po.